Okay, well, I think we'll get it kicked off here. Just I don't want to fall behind on time if people are late joining. Um, I'll just get right into it. I guess Ryan's the only one here, so we'll do a special presentation just for him.
Great.
Just some quick housekeeping that I'll do. The meeting is being recorded, and so we can share with those unable to attend live today. I'll ask that you not speak, or that you, if you're not speaking, to please mute your microphone to minimize the background noise. Excuse me. And when you have questions during the presentation, please use the chat feature at the bottom of your screen. Simply click on it, and you'll be able to type a question into the chat feature. The other option is to hold your questions until the end. We'll do our best to cover it on this meeting, but if we run out of time, we will follow up after the call. So first off, I'd just like to welcome everyone and thank you for joining us. This is my first ever corn grower meeting and my first crack at hosting a Zoom call. So hopefully it all goes smooth. I look forward to the day that we can have an in-person meeting, but for now we will do it virtually without compromising anyone's safety. To be honest, this platform seems more convenient for everyone to attend, so it's not all bad. A quick overview. It's a fast glimpse of what we're going to be talking about today. I'd like to take a minute just to give a word. Aaron Miller is going to talk about Pioneer hybrids and provide some early agronomic tips. I asked Levi Adams to talk about the crop protection side of things. And we should have some time for questions at the end and a small prize to give away for those that were able to join us today. I just wanted to start out by saying thank you to all of you. Thank you for the opportunity to meet each of you over the past year, and I'm excited to get to know you better. I will say it has been an unusual time to begin this journey, but it's been fun so far, and I hope it continues to be that. Thank you for your support in helping me understand how your industry works. Last season, I was very new with the corn side of my business, and I loved learning about this fascinating crop. Thanks to those who provided me the opportunity to walk their fields regularly, even allowing me to take my kids to explore a Pioneer cornfield. Just a tidbit, I guess, of information is I just finished a program within Pioneer called Agronomy Essentials, which mainly focuses on corn. The course officially wrapped up yesterday, I think the 9th. So Aaron Miller was my mentor through the program, and I'm excited to take what I learned in the classroom setting to your fields and apply it to the real thing. If you see my truck next to your field, it's most likely my curiosity at work, but feel free to join me if you have the time. If you have seed booked with me, I will be in touch real soon to talk about deliveries and expectations this season. So look out for that. And if you're still looking for corn in 2021, please let me know. There are plans in place for some corn plots this year for anyone interested to look at. Expect more details on this in the spring once things are finalized. I believe Aaron will mention something about that in his presentation as well. So at this time, I would like to take a minute and introduce you to my territory manager, Rebecca Kripp, and our area lead, Greg Stockey. I'd like to invite them to say hello and give a very fast explanation of what they do within Pioneer and Corteva.
Sure, I can start. So welcome, Ryan. And like Mike said, my name's Rebecca, and I work for Corteva as a Pioneer Territory Manager. So I've got a geography north and east of Saskatchewan that I cover, and I work with the Pioneer agencies in that geography. So, you know, I guess really what my goal is working with Mike and day to day is just talking about and promoting and understanding and about our corn and canola varieties and getting that information to you. And then secondly, obviously getting seed in your hands in time for spring.
And hi, Ryan. My name's Greg Stockey, and I reside in Watrous. I grow Pioneer corn as well, and I've got a herd of commercial cattle. So maybe someday we'll have the opportunity to meet out in the cornfield out in your area. So nice to meet you. Back to you, Mike.
All right, thanks, guys. With that, I'll jump into our introductions. You guys can see my screen again?
Yeah.
Perfect. So Aaron Miller is our territory agronomist. He's been a huge resource to me on corn and canola, and I'm sure most of you already know him. Aaron has walked in many of your fields last season with me and has taught me most of what I know about corn this far. Aaron has 10 years of experience and a way of sharing memorable analogies to help remember key things in the field. Those of you who know Aaron know exactly what I'm talking about. After Aaron, I've asked Levi Adams to talk a little bit. Levi is our Corteva crop protection rep. Pioneer falls under the Corteva umbrella, so we are on the same team and we do work together. I'm still getting to know Levi myself, but he has already been a great help to me, excuse me, and I'm sure he can bring value to your farm. The past year, I would get home after walking your cornfields and explain how fascinating it was to my two boys and little girl. They were asking me all year if they could go and see a cornfield with me. And finally in August, I took them out on our adventure, and I think they had as much fun as I did out there. It was a challenge to get them back in the truck by the end. So I can't wait to take them back out this year. With that, I will hand it off to Aaron to start his spiel.
All right, thanks. Thanks, Mike. Just a word of caution with the little ones that are running through cornfields. I noticed two of them have glasses, but the other one didn't. So just keep an eye out for her. You don't want to scratch an eyeball or something like that, which can happen. So I guess it's going to be a bit of a small group today. You know, as far as what I'm going to share, I'll put my presentation up on the screen, but I think whoops, hit the wrong button. Share. Okay, with such a small group, Ryan, I would say that you feel free to chime in at any time if you have questions. You don't need to wait. I think we can keep it pretty informal right off the hop. I just want to make sure I know which Ryan I'm talking to here. So can you give me a quick introduction of you as well, and we can like I said, keep it informal. And I think from my standpoint with a small group like this, I want to just ask you, you know, what in particular, if there's anything you're looking for that I can kind of tailor to what your interests are.
Okay. You can hear me? Thumbs up. Okay.
Yeah, really quietly, but we can hear you.
Okay. Well, I'll speak up. Ryan Entz from Entz Farms. Aaron, you've been at our place, I believe, a number of times. And so we've been growing corn since I'm over 40. We've been growing corn for nearly 30 years out here. And let me see. What I'm after, I guess, we're after a high energy corn, short season that will help so cows will milk. That's what we're after. We're not necessarily, we're after tonnage, I guess, too, but trying to keep it within the time frame, within a proper harvest window, I guess.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. I know you guys do custom planting as well, hey? So yeah, so I know you probably touch a lot of different growers that are working with us, and probably other companies as well. So I'll definitely touch on our products and where they fit. I'll focus a little bit more on that hybrid selection. That seems to be, I think, you know, probably the main thing that you're after. I know you've got a lot of familiarity with corn and planting, but I'll maybe rip through some of the tips as I go, just as a, you know, refresher. Maybe there'll be something, a nugget in there that you can take from it as well, but I'll try and focus on what you're looking for. So
great.
Thanks for that, Ryan, and thanks for joining too. I'm sure that we really appreciate it. So I just this is what I had planned. When it comes to corn, as you know, details are, you know, paying attention to the details is really important. Corn it's not a hard crop to grow, but there's a lot of little things that you have to do in order to be successful with it. And it's not a super forgiving crop. So getting the corn off to a good start is pretty key. So hybrid selection, obviously in northern Saskatchewan, we're limited to the number of products we have, and depending on what your end use is, I know you're a silage guy. You might plant for a few grazing folks out there as well, but I think I'll focus mostly on the silage. I'll comment on grazing. Field prep, something I think that's important. We'll touch on that. I know you probably are fairly familiar with that in your custom planting, because you probably come to all sorts of different types of fields and they're prepped all sorts of different ways. And then you're, well, I for better lack of a better term, trying to make a silk purse out of a sow's ear and be successful, you know, planting your corn. So, you know, I would say field prep is going to be really important. Planting, fertility, and weed control. So I'm sure you've seen this before, but it's just kind of a map of corn heat units for the area. You can see if in the Saskatoon area, if you can see my cursor, we're in this 21. Second here, I'm getting blocked by the screen there, but we're in that you know, 2,000 to 2,200 heat unit range, and I would say that that is for silage type of thing situation. But what I know for from experience is that, you know, when you look at the corn heat unit number on a product guide, it doesn't always align with what we get for corn for heat units in Saskatchewan. And I call this drift, and there's a couple different things that can cause it. So I think the big thing is understanding maturities, and what I think you've probably had experience with this is that not every company rates their products the same. So you want to make sure that you're comparing apples to apples when you're looking at a heat unit number. For us, we use a heat unit number that goes from planting to grain harvest moisture, which is a roughly 25% moisture, like at combining when you would start. So that's not exactly an exact number, because, you know, a lot of guys will harvest at different moistures, but that gives you an idea of how we rate our products. Other ways to do it are to black layer, which would be, you know, physiological maturity, which is in that 32 to 33% moisture range. So if you're doing comparing apples to apples there, you'd know that the if there's two 2100 heat unit products, one that rates it to a harvest moisture of 25% versus one that rates it to 32%, there's going to be a difference in maturity there, even though they have the same number. And then even to complicate things more, you have some folks that'll use that heat unit number to a silage maturity, which is, you know, that 50% milk line or 50 to 70% milk line in there. So that's going to be, you know, obviously even a more immature plant than the other two. I took this picture quite a few years ago in down in Iowa, and I just wanted to show this because it really brings up, when people see this, they get really like in awe. The product on the left, far left here, is from Mexico. This one here, central, is from Brazil. And then this one here, if you can see the number, is from Canada. And you can see a huge difference in stature, in leaf size, in, you know, pretty much, you know, overall look and impressiveness and maturity as well. But if you took a look at this, these hybrids, like, you kind of say, holy wow, that thing is massive. It's probably, I stood beside it, it's probably 14, 15 feet tall compared to ours, which is dead and done already. But if you took one of these plants from either of these two big tall hybrids, cut them off and dried them down, they would probably weigh less than what we have in this 7005. And that comes down to when you look at a product, grain is the most contributing factor to your dry matter. So if you don't get grain, your tonnage is going to be down, and obviously your quality is going to be down, as you mentioned. So you got to be really careful when you're assessing products to, you know, not look at the, you know, necessarily how pretty it is or how tall it is or how big the leaves are, because it doesn't necessarily give you what you need. Just a quick look at the quality of plant parts as far as they, you know, work with silage. So you can see for the percentage of dry matter column, I highlighted two spots here. The grain represents over 48% of your total dry matter. The cob itself is another 12%. So basically that ear is 60% of your dry matter. So it doesn't matter how big your plant gets or how pretty it looks or how big the leaves are. If you don't get grain in there, you don't really get a whole lot of dry matter. So you can see leaves under 10% of your actual dry matter. So that's something to consider when you're picking your hybrids. There's a few key stages to keeping, to yield and getting your grain set. And anytime a corn plant is stressed, it's going to delay it. So, the one that I'm concerned about the most right now coming into spring is germination and emergence. And, if you don't establish a plant, you don't get an ear on that plant and you don't have any potential for grain. The other stages that are critical are V6, V7, which is when you determine the number of rows per ear. V10 to VT is the number of kernels per row, and that all contributes to how much grain is put on that ear. And then obviously pollination. At R1 stage, that's when all of the silks are emerging, and you're getting when the silks are emerging and you're getting pollination, and you're actually getting those ears. Okay, I had a screen there. So that's all contributing to yield. So at the end of the day, we need to keep the plants stress-free at those timings. Field prep is critical, and you know this as you probably go into fields for planting, and if they're not prepared right, it's really hard to get the plants established and seed. We're using precision planters, which for the most part are discs, and I find the biggest issue we have is residue management. We get a lot of residue. Sometimes we're going into other crops that have a lot of straw, and straw is going to affect seed placement in the soil, as well as soil temperature. So we want to make sure we can manage our straw in order to make sure that we get that corn off to a good start. We want to have good seed bed preparation so that we got good seed to soil contact, and then that the corn seed is put into moisture. It can, how we prepare the soil can affect our compaction as well. And at this time we can put fertility down and all that kind of stuff. But we know corn is not a super competitive crop out of the ground early on. There's a lot of open space when we're planting it in rows. And we want to make sure that we get this corn off to a good start. So soil temperature, I know sometimes we push that, and I'm all for pushing that, but 10 degrees is kind of the guidelines. I always look at the extended forecast as well. So if you're 8 degrees and the outlook for the week looks really good, and the temperatures are going to be up, I'd plant it. The lady who taught me the most I know about corn used to talk about the bare ass test, and she said if you can sit on the ground with a bare ass and tolerate it, you can probably plant your corn. So that's kind of something that I've never tried, but maybe I'll get Mike to give it a go this spring here. Here's what corn looks like at different temperatures for germination. You can tell that obviously, the far left is 10 degrees Celsius. That's where we recommend planting our corn here in Canada. And, you can see that it hasn't really done anything other than swole up at 72 hours. But you can see at 27 degrees, you got a pretty good root started on there already. So that's critical how, shows how critical soil temperature is as far as getting corn started. This is a picture of what can happen if the soil is too cold. When that seed imbibes cold water, you can get all sorts of weird things happening, corkscrewing, really thick mesocotyls, just funny growth habits. And if you get that happening, you're not going to get a corn plant that's going to contribute to your yield. So we try and avoid that as much as possible. So the trick is to get out there as early as you can, as long as the soil is fit to be planted. Depth, obviously we want to be at least 1.5 inches. As far as depth goes, you can see on the picture here, your seed depth is here, and then you have your mesocaudal elongation, and then your primary roots develop just below the soil surface, usually 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch below. So we want to make sure that we plant it deep enough that we're going to get into moisture, uniform emergence, so that everything comes up like a white picket fence. If we have uneven emergence, you can see what happens here. This is a 6-day difference in emergence. The left ear is, full and looks pretty good. The ear on the right here, where my cursor is going, is 6 days delay. These are pictures. These are fairly extreme, but these are pictures from down in Johnston, where they did a demo at our head office down in Des Moines. And you can see here a 12-day difference where pollination barely occurred on the right ear. This is on the right here, we have differences in planting depth, and 1/2 inch versus 2 inch. You can see a big difference in the ear set, and then 3 inches versus 2 inches, where they went deeper. And it probably wouldn't have been any different if it was all at 3 inches, but compared to 2 inches, you can see this plant emerged earlier and had a bit of an advantage. If everything was seeded over 3 inches, they probably would all look like the one on the right. So one thing that I could say is, generally you will never lose a crop from seeding too deep, a corn crop from seeding too deep, but you can have issues if you seed too shallow. So err on the side of seeding it a little on the deeper side if you can get it there. So population is one of those things, I think, that is critical. We've been pushing our populations higher. All of our early season hybrids are tested at 34,000. So you can see, one of the things that I hear all the time is, people like to look at big plants. They like to look at the ears and say, "Oh man, I got this massive ear." And I always say, if that's something that impresses you, you probably don't know much about corn, because ideally you want to have less ears of an even size. This is kind of an example of that. So 28,000, you can see there's 15 pounds of corn there. The ears are generally going to be bigger, but overall you're going to get less grain. 32,000, you can see a little bit smaller ear, but you're going to get more. And then at 36,000, you're going to get smaller ears, but more. There is a balance for this, because if you go too high of a population, you can end up having your maturity drift a little bit. And for us, that's not very good. We want to make sure that our maturity range stays the same. So ideally, I'm still in that 32 to 34,000 range for population recommendation. I have guys that want to push it a little higher, my recommendation is always, let's try a test strip at that higher population to make sure that it pays for you, and that we're making it work before we blanket the farm. So fertility, really simple. This is what corn plant needs. We're after grain, nitrogen, phosphate, potassium, and sulfur. Those are the macros that we always talk about. So 1 pound of nitrogen per bushel of corn, and you can basically, what's your yield target, and how many tons do you want to grow, and we need to fertilize accordingly. For silage, it's kind of an 8 pounds per metric ton is our target. So you can use those numbers to kind of tailor up your fertility program. Generally, I haven't seen a need for micronutrients. The one that you can see, sulfur is a very small amount of required, but I do see a lot of sulfur deficiency in corn. And I think that's due to our rotations that we use. Obviously canola is a big user of sulfur, so sometimes we're in a deficient sulfur state. If you have manure, a really good fertilizer source, and I recommend it. It seems corn really responds to manure. The one thing I would be cautious of is putting too much fertilizer down with the seed. You're in wide rows, so it's a big, a lot of fertilizer will get packed into those wider rows. So we got to be very careful not to put too much down. Depending on your soil type, I know around here we've got some sandier soil, so we want to be very cautious. Really low amounts of soil fertilizer with the seed, so we want to broadcast that on or band it. Basically make sure that we're not overloading it in the seed row and causing issues. Here I mentioned manure is an excellent source. They compare manure versus commercial fertilizer, and you can see that increased yield and higher test weights. So, if you have access to manure, which I know a lot of guys around here do, that's a great source of fertilizer. Weed control, obviously, corn's not very competitive early on. We want to get those weeds out as quick as possible. You can see that the longer we leave the weeds in there, the more our yield drops, and there can be delay in maturity. You can see how big of an effect it has on corn. This is a plugged nozzle, and basically this was on the first app. They had a plugged nozzle, and they went back and sprayed 8 days later, and you can see where how big of a difference there was in the corn growth. A word of caution, I guess, when we look at the crop protection guide. I know a lot of people reference this for products to use for weed control, and this is the list of products, and there's a lot of products in there that I don't recommend for corn, especially on the Pioneer corn. I know other companies say that you can use some of these products, but it seems like our group 4 phenoxies like 2,4-D and MCPA can affect corn and cause some damage. So I try and avoid them as much as possible. You can see here what kind of damage you can see, and obviously these are fairly bad scenarios, but I've seen that things like this happen before. Twisting, buggy whipping, brittle snap, things like that. Phenoxies cause that type of damage, and it causes a delay. So for us, we want to make sure that the corn is not delayed in any way and has the opportunity to get to full maturity for silage. So I recommend this. I go, pre-seed, I use glyphosate and heat. Heat is can be residual. There's 2 rates. I generally, if the weed spectrum is fairly heavy, I use the high rate of heat. That'll give you some residual control. And then in crop, glyphosate and Sortan is my go-to. Sortan is also residual, and it gives good weed control. And because of the residual, it allows the corn to get going in a weed-free state. The only time I don't recommend using Sortan is when kochia is present. Sortan is a group 2 chemical, and most kochia I would consider a group 2 resistance. So if there's kochia, we usually switch it up and use either Impact or Armazon, which is the same chemistry. It's topramezone in the book, and that gets kochia as long as you get it on early and it's small. Thistles are something that can be tough to kill with straight glyphosate. Sortan does a pretty good job on it as well, but Eclipse, which has got Lantrell in it, is another option that's safe on corn. And then the one thing that I use as a rescue treatment, if say you went with glyphosate and then you had a flush of volunteer canola that you didn't realize was in there, Basagran is a contact herbicide that's safe on corn and won't cause any injury or delay it, but it is a little bit costly. So atrazine, very residual. I don't generally recommend it because most guys are rotating their corn crop, but if you're going corn on corn, it can be useful for certain situations. So just don't recommend any 2,4-D dicamba and MCPA. So as far as the products go, again, keys to success: hybrid selection, field prep, planting, fertility. If you hit all these small nails, you're going to have a huge result. As far as products go, to talk a little bit about your initial question, Pioneer has the earliest products on the market from what I've seen. We're testing in northern in Western Canada. We have a breeder located right here in Saskatchewan, and you know, we're testing products for this geography to compare, you know, with other companies. A lot of other companies are testing in Ontario and the northern states, and they have something really early, and it looks really early down there. And you can see what that 7005 looked like in a situation where they have a lot of heat units. It finishes really fast and it looks really early. When you bring it into a northern climate, you tend to get a bit of drift, and it tends to be not nearly as early as most of the time people think. So I would say, you know, look at the products, have them side by side, assess their maturity, and go with the ones that are made for here. You know, be careful about people who have a lot of experience with corn in other areas of the world. It's always a tough one, because, you know, when you have somebody from Ontario or the States come up and they talk about corn, very knowledgeable for corn in their area. But the one thing I've learned over the years is that when you grow corn here, it's different than anywhere in the world, because we deal with conditions that nobody else deals with. So I learned that when asking questions from some of the folks down in Johnston. Hey, how would you deal with this? And they're like, you're gonna have to figure that out, because we've never grown corn in that situation. So you probably are as much of a resource to us as we are to you, because you see a lot of different products. You do a lot of different things throughout the year, and I know you work with Mike on testing products as well. So that's good, and we thank you for that. I really appreciate all the work you guys do working with us. So our early products are getting earlier, and it's a tough thing. And the reason I mentioned those tall products versus 7005, you can see the stature is quite short. The way they get maturity down is to remove the leaves. So you just get smaller plants, right? So it takes more energy and more time to put on leaves and build the plant. So the way they gain early maturity is to actually make smaller stature plants by removing leaves. It takes about 120 heat units to put on a leaf. So if you can make a plant with less leaves, that's going to get to reproductive state faster. You're going to get a you know, earlier maturity, and then you're going to get to grain quicker. So we do, from what I've seen of any products out on the marketplace, we have the earliest maturity, which is the best fit. So for here, and as long as we get good weather conditions, you know, we can push getting a high amount of grain and high starch levels in our corn. So I've been fortunate enough to be able to work with some of these. I've seen up to over 40% starch in our corn if we get good conditions. And, you know, I've had a few guys working to make cob meal, things like that. So I mean, when that's getting it right to black layer before they're harvesting it. So, you know, there is some good products out there that are really good fits for us here in northern Saskatchewan. So I'll end there. I think I took up more time than I was supposed to anyways, but if you have any questions, Ryan, you know, feel free. Hopefully I answered yours.
Thanks, Aaron. There's some great stuff in there. Lots of good information, especially from a agronomic standpoint. I'll turn it over to you, Levi.
Sorry about that. Aaron, does that count towards my PA credits, that little spiel there? Morning, Ryan. Thanks for joining us. I've been in your territory for a couple of years now, as with a competitor before, working with the corn business a bit. Can you guys all hear me?
Yeah, you're good.
Perfect. I'm just going to share my screen here, if it lets me. And there we go. So today I'm going to I'm just going to quickly touch on corn herbicides. Aaron did a really good job already talking about recommendations, and I fully align with that. These are the three kind of products that we would be supporting on the corn for 2021. And you probably, Ryan, have used all three, I assume, at some point in your career. But obviously with the Eclipse and Montreal, the big focus is going to be, we're looking at thistle, maybe going in a little bit later. And with the Sortan, like Aaron said, we want to go early, get that maybe a little bit heavier rate of the 60 acre or the 40 acre rate, and get some good residual control, and protect that crop early. So these are a couple of just the key weeds you'd see with Eclipse, and Eclipse is Launtrell and glyphosate. I'm going to go really quick through this because Aaron already touched on these, and again, Sortan I think would be our lead recommendation. Have you used Sortan in the past before, Ryan?
Yeah, we've. I'm not the sprayer operator, but my brother's been using that a fair amount.
Awesome. And do you guys go kind of like early with the heavier rate, or what do you guys usually do?
I can't tell you. I don't know.
No worries. Yeah, well, I think that would be just Aaron's recommendation and mine is the heavier rate's going to get you that residual control, and that I think is going to where your most bang for your buck is. Maybe going at that pre-seed with heat and glyphosate, and then follow with Sortan to extend that weed-free control window there. But something else, is there any questions on there? Or Ryan, I just wanted to rip through that really quick, just because I know Aaron already touched on that.
Yeah, no, I'm good.
Okay, perfect. The thing I wanted to focus on more today that Mike asked me to was actually our Flex Plus Rewards program. As a PHI grower, you kind of slide in this program really easily. And so I just wanted to know first, are you aware of this program at all, or have you heard of it at all?
No, I'm not really aware of it.
Okay. Well, this is kind of the whole spiel right here. We have a couple deadlines that kind of increase your rebate opportunity. So it works with you getting segments. So one segment would be pre-seed, another would be grass, another would be broadleaf, fungicide, and so on. And then seed counts as one as well. You don't get paid on it, but it counts as a segment or a category. And when you do these categories, you trigger into one category here, and then with seed, if you bought Sortan and seed, you'd be in category 2, for example. And I don't know if you can see my mouse there.
Yeah.
So then if you have it, say you use Sortan every year, you're like, well, we won't use it every year, we might as well book it. So you call your retail, that's 3%. And then you're probably going to take it before April 30th if you're going to stick with the early application, kind of that higher rate. So that's another 2%. And then for the other 3% there, you're at 8%. And then because you use our seed, we give you another percent there. So you're sitting at that 9% opportunity for your program there. And this is kind of what, actually, I think it gets to 10% is what it did on the calculator, but for dollars, because your dollars bumps up. But it gets it to about here per acre off at that 60 acre rate. So that's one scenario. And then have you used any other Corteva products before, Ryan, or?
I can't tell you. I'm not. I said I'm not the sprayer guy, and I don't deal with the chemicals at all. That's Russ's baby there.
Okay. Well, I might get Mike to send you this rebate thing in case you guys do, because it can change pretty quick if you jump from 2 segments, so corn and Sortan, to corn, Sortan, or a cereal pre-burn. So let's say pre-pass, Corex, something like that, or if you're doing that. Because you guys grow more than corn, right? You do little cereals as well, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah. Okay. So it can make that Sortan situation just a little more palatable. And then obviously if you chuck in a broadleaf, it increases that as well. So just a couple different scenarios. I could get Mike to send this to you, and then maybe you pass it on to your brother who does that with my contact. So and this would be kind of some of the opportunity that you could see. This is minimal acres. One thing I would mention is if you're gonna, and to your brother is, hey, if you're gonna buy any Corteva products, make sure you hit that 300 acre mark, even if it means taking one extra jug for next year or something, because it will, that's where it kind of gets, it triggers the rebates.
Okay.
So other than that, I don't have any other questions. I know Mike had this set for 9:45 end time, so I wanted to try to honor that. Is there anything from the team that they'd like to add or that I missed with our rebates there? Or Aaron, did I miss anything on Sortan that is key to talk about?
No, I think it does a good job, and like I said, the only reason I would go away from it would be if you have kochia issues. But I think for the most part, it does a good job. The residual control is awesome, and a lot of times it actually I've seen it where you don't have to go back. You know, it holds it, the corn gets going, and once it gets competitive, corn keeps the weeds down. So depending on how weedy the field is and what the weed spectrum is, it does a good job. So obviously you guys have been using it. It must be working for you. So
yeah.
Okay, well, thank you, Levi, for covering that. And sorry you were limited on time.
Oh no, that's fine. Got it done.
Okay, I have a spot here for questions with our contact info. So this is, I guess, as much for the people that are going to be watching it after the fact once I post it up. And there was a door prize at the end, but I think you win it just anyway there, Ryan. So thank you for joining us. I appreciate that. And I look forward to talking to you soon.
Real good.
All right.
Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Ryan.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
thanks, Ryan. If you have any questions, you know, feel free to reach out. We're more than happy to help with anything. So.
Okay, that's real good. I know there were a couple of times, Aaron, I think I had your contact, and this growing season was kind of challenging with corn, and it's like, man, I should ask Aaron this. And then I'm kind of one of those text warriors where it's like you start texting, and then it's like, whatever, I don't want to bother him today. But yeah, it was an interesting year, that's for sure.
You can always bother me, Ryan. I have no problem bothering Aaron anytime.
Okay, no, that's good. I appreciate that. That's really good.
For sure, it's not a bother at all. And like I said, if you have any questions, feel free. I mean, we're happy to help. That's kind of what I look forward to, getting in the cornfields all summer anyway. So Mike will be dragging me out there, I'm sure, this year. He's pretty keen on the corn. It's a lot of fun. So
yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Mike.
Have a good day.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.